Sally?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment, and that is that, first of all, we don't know if these animals are going to die anyway, because the animals in San Diego County Department of Animal Control are not placed in adoption pens, and they do not have the opportunity or the option of getting adopted before they are used by UCSD.
Isn't the pound, let me just for clarification, isn't animal control saying we try to identify those animals we think will have a better chance of being, they're overwhelmed with the numbers. I mean, I have to take, they say we think this dog can be adopted, so they put it in a pen where people will see it. You're absolutely right. Some are separated out, but isn't somebody trying to make that judgment?
No,
it's not random.
No, the pound is there for the animals. The pound is supported by tax dollars for the animals. The pound is supported by tax dollars for owners of the animals. The animals should certainly be allowed and available for adoption before, first of all, they are offered to the research community. And secondly, the pound is there for the protection of the animals. And if we want to take the utilitarian attitude that because these animals can help people, they should be used, well, I think then that you would see these animals being used, or you might see these animals being used for their fur. You might see these animals being used to feed people. It is the same issue.
There's an interesting clamor of people out there somewhere wondering where all the efforts are for spay and neuter programs. I'll be right back to the panel, Doctor, I promise. We've talked about the use of animals to try to develop cures for disease. We want to talk about one specific case. It involves a major killer. Tim Carr reports on a La Jolla scientist who says he's making advancements trying to find a cure for AIDS.
This is no ordinary mouse. It could lead to a breakthrough in solving the plague of the latter part of the 20th century, AIDS. Researchers have injected a human immune system into the animal. That means they will be able to introduce the AIDS virus into the mouse and look for ways to treat it. It may sound like just another scientific achievement, but it could save the life of Richard Stone. Stone has AIDS.
I breathed a sigh of relief when I read that. It means that I can quite possibly keep my system healthy enough, long enough, to be able to have that drug tested on me, maybe have it be on the market.
This is the man who may help save Stone's life. Dr. Donald Mosier developed the experiment with this mouse about a year ago.
All indications are that this is going to be a very powerful model for both studying how the AIDS virus causes the disease and also for asking what kind of agents can you use to prevent the disease.
In response to animal activists' insistence on using other methods to study the virus like computer models or tissue cultures, Mosier says it still comes back to using animals.
The ultimate test of whether a theory, a drug works, is to take that into the whole animal.
Nearly 100,000 Americans have AIDS. Among them are many San Diegans. That's not good news, as more than half of those who contract the disease die. For people like Richard Stone, animal research is among their greatest hopes.
I have to agree with them about some domesticated animals, and I don't like to see them tested either and their lives wasted. I take a different look at the situation of mice, I think, particularly when it means my life.
Mosier balks at accusations of torture of animals by researchers.
To my knowledge, that happens very rarely, if at all.
Dr. Mosier, do you think human life is more important than animal life?
I think that the use of mice is absolutely appropriate and that the human lives that we save are more important than the mice that we use in those experiments.
I look at the medical researchers as good guys. I absolutely do. I know a lot of people with AIDS who every day is just drudgery. They are almost looking forward to death so they don't have to worry anymore. Stuff I read about medical research is encouraging. I mean, it's the kind of thing that I can look forward to. I'll say, gosh, you know, I'll wake up tomorrow morning and maybe not a cure, but there'll be a better treatment. You know, so it's, yeah, very, very, very important in my mind. Absolutely.
Okay, we're back live. Your name and your question?
My name is Robert Nanigan. This is for one of the vivisectors on the panel.
I don't think they would characterize themselves as that, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
What we're dealing with here is a question of arrogance in terms of we have an overpopulated world, and you say you're working to, like, relieve human suffering. There's so many people, as the human population increases, all other species decrease. How are you helping our entire biosphere by making sure that people just keep coming and coming and letting people live to 80s and 90s, and it's just taxing our whole system?
Is there a point where we should terminate human life?
No, I think when life terminates itself, why are we trying to keep people alive on life support and put new hearts? It's totally like Frankenstein and building the better body. Why don't you just let it go when it's time to go? Why are we so arrogant?
Have you met any patients yet, even Dr. Breslau, have you met any patients yet that were ready to say this is it for me unless you can?
Yeah, even Dr. Breslau has, Marty. I'm going to invoke the fairness doctrine, which means I get to speak now.
Okay.
You showed us an aid on clips. I'm sorry, you showed us a clip on AIDS. AIDS is exclusively a human disease. There are no end of AIDS volunteers who will make their bodies and their serum available for the necessary studies. Dr. Mosier has a self-fulfilling prophecy. Research on mice is good, therefore research on mice is good.
Can you help me understand something about just exactly this subject? I understood that an American firm had developed what it thought to be a vaccine with some potential, yet it is being tested on humans, but in Europe, not in this country. Does that ring a bell? I've been having trouble finding out and understanding
Marty,
why.
that same story resurfaces approximately every 3.5 weeks.
Oh, okay, so it's not... Are you telling me it's not true?
Our nearest cousins on this planet are chimpanzees.
No, but I'm asking why it's not being tested in this country. Are you telling me that no such vaccine exists? Or there's something specific to our system?
No, there have been attempts to create a vaccine in human volunteers using AIDS-infected individuals. And a brave French researcher allowed himself to be infected in order to help the development of the vaccine.
So the story that I'm asking you about, you don't know about. I mean, I've been unable to find much information about it.
Marty, I don't think that's the point.
Marty, it's a simple matter. You've got chimpanzees and you want to give them AIDS because they don't get AIDS. So we go over there and we shoot their mothers and we drop the babies out of the trees and we go over there and bring them over and give them all AIDS. Now, do you really think there's any morality in that? This is an animal that doesn't get this disease. This is a disease that you got 75 or even 100,000 people out there, of whom 10,000 are in such desperate and sad and tragic shape that they would offer themselves tomorrow for any drug that had any hope. Okay. And I don't understand it, and neither do you. Okay. And it's because we've been amoral for so damn long.
Okay. I do understand that we have to take a break. When we come back, Steve, it's all yours. Okay, we're back live. We're going to go as quickly as we can with as many questions as we can. But, Steve, you wanted to respond to the issue of AIDS. Why is the medical profession apparently trying to induce AIDS in animals that don't ordinarily get it when, as Mr. Amory says, there may be enough human volunteers with the disease ready to step forward and become test subjects?
There are a lot of humans being involved in AIDS research. It's a very important part of that research, but it can't all be done there. The main comment I wanted to make was to correct the statement that Mr. Amory said that we are shooting chimpanzees' mothers to bring their babies in here to do research on, because that's not happening. There has not been a chimpanzee imported into this country for use in research in 13 years because it's been against the law and it has not been done. And to say that is doing
Okay, questions now. We're going to move as quickly as we can. We got a lot of ground to cover. All right, go ahead. James?
I'm Wayne Andrews, and I was born and raised here in San Diego, and I'd like to ask the doctors these questions. Why don't we use human beings? There's many men on death row that I'm sure would volunteer for these processes.
There was a time, was there not a time when death row inmates, I'm thinking particularly back around the development of some of the vaccines and whatnot for tropical illnesses, why don't we use more human beings, or do we?
Well, we do use human beings, Marty, volunteers who have incurable diseases. AIDS, for example, is a prime example. We use patients to try drugs, hopefully to see what effect it's going to have on them. We do it with patients with cancer. We have protocols that we use for some patients with cancer of the pancreas, cancer of the lung, certain types of cancer. We put some of those patients on certain drugs and others on different drugs to see what kind of results. So we are using people.
Okay, I'm Ted Drake, and I work at Mira Mesa High School. And I challenge any of the biology teachers to explain why they use dissections, because the only reason is to make it so when kids dissect the animals in high school, they don't care when they cut up live animals in college.
Is dissection of animals in high school part of an indoctrination? Go ahead, Sally. Go ahead.
I'd like to respond to that. A law was just passed last year which
you don't have to.
Gives the students the right to refuse to dissect. And I think that we need to make more and more students aware of that law, and more administrators aware of their obligation to make an announcement in classes where dissection occurs that students have the right not to dissect, and that there are a number of alternatives available that give students a better education than does dissection, and do not desensitize them to the importance of having a reverence for life.
Okay, come on over.